Okay, good afternoon everyone and thank you for joining me. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm not much of a public speaker, but being my first OXP, when the team asked me if I wanted to step in on a client testimonial, I thought I can't pass up on the opportunity. So, I'm here to talk to you about juice, but first I'd like us to build a bit of a picture in our minds. So let's imagine something for a moment. You've just gone out to lunch, you've queued up, as all of us have the last few days. You get to the front of the queue, and you see that for every 2 tubs of food that they're giving out, 1 is going straight in the bin. Now, it's perfectly edible, it's perfectly nutritional, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just being thrown in the bin. I suspect that, like me, you would think, that's crazy, right? However, that is the reality of our global food system. 1/3 of all food that's produced never gets eaten. That is exactly where this story begins. So in the UK we have a term called wonky fruits and vegetables. Now I appreciate that may be a very British term. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it refers to the apples with blemishes, or the carrots that don't grow straight, or the pears that are not symmetrical. Now in the UK, every single year, over 3 million tonnes of wonky fruit and vegetables are rejected by the supermarkets. There's a small business in the UK called Daily Dose Juice, who have said, enough is enough, it's time for change, and it's time for us to repurpose that fruit and veg and give it another life. So I am Sam Kane, Business Development Manager at Gravity, and I'm here today to tell you, to share with you how Daily Dose went from spreadsheets and firefighting to scalability and growth within their business, and also what lessons that we can all share from their journey. So Daily Dose wanted to grow. They wanted to sell more juice and reach more customers. They wanted to build new retail and distribution partnerships and to expand their direct-to-consumer business. They had the mission and they had the purpose. However, their systems were frankly just as wonky as the fruit that they were saving. Inventory was a complete mess for them. You would walk into their warehouse or their factory, there'd be crates of apples in one end, there'd be bags of powders in another, there'd be frozen food in the chillers. But if you went to the team and asked them, what exactly do we have and what can we produce today? They'd open up a spreadsheet, they would have a scroll around, do some mental maths, and their answer would be, I'm not completely sure. That's obviously a huge headache for production planners, for procurement managers, and ultimately for cash flow for the business. And as a result, production was often driven more by instinct than information. Decisions about what to make, when to make it, and how much to produce weren't ever guided by data. They were more based on gut feel, last week's orders, and whoever was shouting the loudest on the shop floor. And believe me, a few of them could shout. Quality control was also hanging in the balance. It was reliant on paper and memory. Checks were being written down on clipboards, if somebody remembered to do them. And then they were filed away in a drawer. There was no real-time visibility, there was no easy way to prove compliance, and there was plenty of room for human error. One forgotten tick box could literally mean wasted product, lost time, or even a damaged reputation for them. And then there was traceability, maybe the biggest risk of all for them. So imagine a customer calling up to report an issue with a bottle of juice. They would provide Daily Dose with a unique identifier on the cap of that bottle, and the Daily Dose team then needed to work backwards to establish what base juice had been filled into that bottle, what fruit and vegetable had been used to produce that base juice, and most importantly, where the rest of that juice had gone. If the issue that had been reported was genuine, that was the only way for them to launch a proper recall. But the reality was they couldn't do it. They didn't have a system in place to give them that information. The tools just simply weren't there, and that left the business exposed. And all of this was happening while their existing Odoo system sat in the background, adding to frustration and not giving them any value. It had been set up that badly that instead of making life easier, it just made it harder. The result was a business that worked incredibly hard, but not always effectively. Every single day the team were firefighting, they were fixing mistakes and patching together processes that were never built to scale. We knew as Gravitide that if we could fix even a handful of those challenges, Daily Dose would unlock the time and the resource and the space to focus on what mattered most to them, saving fruit and making juice that people love. So, we rolled up our sleeves. The very first step for us was not to start building or configuring, it was to listen. So we carried out a gap analysis, mapping out what Daily Dose already had, what they truly needed, and where the shortfalls were for them. From that, we built a clear project plan, a journey broken up into stages. We worked in sprints with regular check-ins, and we always made sure that the team's voice was at the centre of everything we were doing. The idea was very simple. It was to not disappear for 6 months and then come back and present a finished solution. It was to build together in steps, to test it quickly and to improve as we went. And the key to it really was that we didn't overcomplicate things. There was no need for endless customization. Instead, we upgraded them very cleanly to version 18, and then we focused on using the best of Odoo's standard features in the right way everywhere we could. So the bit that I'm sure you've all been waiting for is the solution that we provided them with. So to solve their issues with inventory, we implemented Odoo's inventory app. As a result, every single ingredient and finished product in their factory has become fully traceable. With internal traceability labels in place on those products, scanning has replaced all of the guesswork that they're doing about how much they have, where it is, and a lot of errors disappeared almost overnight. Using Odoo's standard reporting within the inventory app, the team can now see exactly where the raw materials are, how much they have, and what batches of finished goods are on their way through the factory ready to be dispatched. Stock checks have also gone from a very painful exercise of counting pallets and writing down the results on paper to quick and reliable scans with Odoo cycle counting right at the helm of that. To really step up their manufacturing processes, we introduced Odoo's manufacturing app. This has meant that all of their recipes and processes have gone from being on pieces of paper or in people's heads to being live directly inside of Odoo. Every single production run that every production run follows a defined bill of materials containing the components and the quantities that need to go into the finished product. They also come with a set of operations and instructions, which means that every single bottle can both be tracked from raw ingredient all the way to finished product, but also that it's produced in a very controlled and predefined manner, following the exact process that's needed. So that's brought a lot of consistency for Daily Dose in the work that they're doing. It's reduced a lot of waste for them, and it's given the team confidence that they can grow and scale their production without losing control of it or without risking a lot of issues and errors. By utilising Odoo's quality app, we've also ensured that quality checks are no longer on clipboards or a checklist that could be forgotten at the end of the process. They've become part of the production flow itself. And if a batch doesn't pass the quality checks or it doesn't meet the standards, it's flagged in Odoo and it's not allowed to either be used in another manufacturing order or to go out the door. So that provides them with a lot of control over what's going out and try and reduce any issues they may run into. The team have now got full traceability of everything they're doing. They've got complete records and the reassurance that compliance is baked into everything they're doing. Further to this, we also brought in Odoo Sales app, which ensures that every order, no matter where it comes from, flows into one single system for them. Online sales, retail, wholesale, distribution partners are all managed in one place. The planning team can see what's coming in, the sales team can see what's being produced and when their orders will be fulfilled, all without juggling spreadsheets or chasing down emails. And the CRM has also given them the visibility of customers and opportunities that means they can build stronger relationships and grow with confidence. Previously, they were also using Xero for accounting, and it was causing a lot of issues for them, a lot of headaches. They struggled with double entry, with delayed reporting, and mismatched numbers. While Daily Dose have continued to use Xero for their accounting, with the help of Pragmatics Connector, the financials now synced automatically. Sales invoices, payments they all now flow seamlessly into Xero from Odoo, meaning that the finance team have got accurate data at their fingertips and management can finally trust all of the data that they're seeing. The results of all of this were visible almost immediately for them. Operations have become a lot smoother, everything's a lot more predictable, and ultimately more efficient. Waste has been cut dramatically, which means that more fruit is being saved and more juice is being produced than ever before. Managers can also see everything they need to at a glance on a single screen, and the team have been able to stop wrestling with admin and fixing issues and focus on what really matters, which for them is rescuing wonky fruit and veg and delighting their customers. So Daily Dose finally have a system that they can trust, one that supports growth instead of holding them back, and for the first time their tools come close to matching their ambitions. Now, all of that is amazing, and it's a huge testament to how usable and feature-rich Odoo is, but the implementation nor the systems would be nearly as effective without one key piece to the puzzle that I mentioned just a moment ago. And that's the very first step, it's the gap analysis. And I think it's really worth talking about in more detail, because for us it forms the foundation of every single successful project that we embark on. Like many others, Daily Dose had already felt what it's like to skip or to breeze through that discovery phase. Their old Odoo 16 instance had been put in place without proper due diligence, which ultimately left them with software that didn't match their processes or their operations. And they knew just as much as we do that they needed to follow a different approach for this implementation. Now, the gap analysis is not a paper exercise or a classroom-based exercise. It's not something that we feel can be carried out effectively remotely, nor can it be carried out effectively in a meeting room in their offices. We spent countless hours with the team on the factory floor, watching how things are really done, breaking the business down step by step. And for each process, we asked 3 very simple questions. What do you have today? What do you need? And most importantly, why should we customize Odoo to fit your processes as opposed to tweaking your processes to fit within standard Odoo? And that third question really does matter. It frames every discussion that we have, and it stops the team from rushing into quick fixes that ultimately will only create pain later. As we all know, Odoo is incredibly powerful out of the box, and every unnecessary line of code that we put in becomes another thing to maintain. It becomes another potential blocker to upgrades and another way to drift away from best practice. During my time at Gravity, I've been involved in countless Odoo recoveries, and the common denominator really is the same thing every time. It's the poor and unnecessary customizations that are being put in, and ultimately they're always coming from a lack of understanding of the real requirements because the discovery hasn't been done. It leads to businesses being tied up in workarounds, and it's not productive for anybody. So by making customization the exception, not the rule, we help Daily Dose to avoid all of those traps and help guides to help the team to decide what they really needed. So the answers to all of these questions were then analysed by business analysts. User stories were created in the language of the team, not in technical terms. They included clear acceptance criteria so that everybody understood exactly what success looked like. And from there we built that practical roadmap, showed priorities, sequencing, and everybody understood what the early wins are and what we need to do to really achieve the goals of the project. So the gap analysis was not just a case of defining the project at the start either. It was crucial at guiding the way that we would work throughout. So every single sprint was tied back to the original requirements. Every review we checked progress against them, and training was given iteratively throughout. So as soon as features went live in the staging database, they were given to the team, they were trained on them, and they tested them. So the confidence grew really quickly, and adoption grew as well. The result for them was a project that stayed on track. Risks were picked up early, and the systems that went live reflected Daily Dose's way of working, not just a consultant's view. So in short, the gap gave us clarity. Our agile methodology gave the project momentum, and the involvement of the team ultimately gave them ownership of the solution. So everybody at Gravity, and dare I say now Daily Dose, is of the firm belief that the gap analysis really does make or break a project. The gap analysis is the difference between implementing software and transforming a business. If you get it right, you uncover the hidden frictions, the hidden friction, the workarounds, and the manual processes that are quietly draining time and profit. But if you skip it and if you get it wrong, you risk the solution being built on assumptions and leaving cracks that ultimately grow as the business does. So, with that said, what did we learn along the way? Well, first, I think that it really shows that it's important to keep it simple. Systems are there to serve the business. If you add too much complexity, ultimately you slow people down instead of helping them. Secondly, it's that processes must come first. Before anybody goes into the system and starts clicking buttons and using it, it's crucial to take the time to understand what people really do day to day. We have to design the systems based on reality, not theory. Third, I think it's really evident how important it is to bring the team with you. Technology only works not only if people use it, but if people take ownership of it. So it's really important to involve them, to train them, and to let them shape the change within their business. And finally, it's that change lands best in phases. When you roll it out step by step, people adapt, confidence grows, and momentum just builds. I don't think these are just lessons for Daily Dose. I think they're lessons for any of us delivering projects or working on projects within Odoo, whether in food, manufacturing, or beyond. So, what does this all mean for Daily Dose? Ultimately, it means that they moved from a system that was causing chaos to a system that provides clarity for them. It means that they've gone from those clipboards and the guesswork to live data and control within their business, from firefighting and to confidence in their ability to grow. But more than that, it means that they're saving fruit that would have otherwise been wasted and turning it into something that people love. And now they have the systems to do it at scale. That to me is really the power of technology, not to burden or to add complexity to teams, but to free them from all of those issues and to allow them to focus on what matters most and to grow without losing sight on their mission. So that's all from me. I think we've got a Q&A session coming up. So if you have any questions, please scan the QR code and we'll be happy to answer. Hi.
Network. Okay, question time. How long was the project?
So from the point of upgrading them to version 18, the project took about 6 months to get live. Often with the projects we do, due to the gap analysis, they can be slightly front heavy. They can feel like they're taking a while to get going, but doing that due diligence ultimately means that they can fly after that. So yeah, it was about 6 months and they were live.
Perfect. Has the Daily Dose seen an increase in the productivity output since implementation?
Yeah, absolutely they have. So the feedback that we've had from them in the follow-ups that we've had is that they've seen massive improvements in their productivity and their ability to output goods. I don't actually have any material numbers on that, but I will have a chat and reach out on LinkedIn if you want to hear about that.
Thanks. What are the common challenges you see clients facing pre-Odoo?
There are a lot. Obviously, clients that are pre-Odoo, if they're already on ERPs like the legacy systems like your Microsoft, your SAPs, those kinds of things, they all seem to be plagued by the inability to flex. The systems are ultimately very restrictive and cost a lot of money to adapt. But I think Odoo provides a lot of features and is obviously being open source. There's a great community that allows them to flex with their business ultimately.
Perfect. Was it a different company that implemented 16?
It was, but we don't want to get political, so we'll leave that. It wasn't us though, so yes, it was another partner.
How long do you recommend the gap analysis period to take?
So usually we will, obviously it's an on-site exercise, so we will come on site for anywhere from a day to a few days, maybe even a week for a bigger company. We then take that away, and ultimately we're going to spend a couple of weeks on that, going through the user stories, building the acceptance criteria and the solutions. But from end to end, realistically getting the scope signed off and tailored should be anywhere from maybe 6 to 8 weeks, maybe more. It really depends on the size of the business.
Nothing else. Thank you.
Nothing else, perfect. Thank you very much.